In this video, I'll be using the physical team with Klukai against the Gunsmoke boss Nemertea. I'll be using Papa Shaw, a V3R1 Yuhi, Diane, QJ without her expansion key, so her support attacks do physical damage instead of burn damage, and I'll be borrowing someone's V6 Klukai. The buff I'll be using is Limit Breaking Strike, which is physical damage is increased by 30%. Now I like putting Papa Shaw here because I want her summon to drop as close to the boss as possible, since you can't move it without using her skill 2. And I like having QJ and Yuhi over here, because I usually start every turn with QJ and ultimate, and I can move her close to these two, and then I can move Yuhi close to these two, and cluster my units together. We'll move QJ here and ultimate. And we'll move Yuhi here. Now if the summon had dropped here instead, I would put Yuhi here. Since the summon dropped here, I'm going to put Yuhi here, and I'm going to use her ultimate. Now in the first turn, it doesn't really matter what steps you use. So what I like to do is just step 1, and it doesn't matter who you pick, because after using her ultimate, it hits all allies instead of just one unit. Now, the reason why I would put Yui here when the summon is here, or here when the summon is here, is because when I use her skill 2, I can hit everyone with it to get the targeted attack defense 1. And then I'll use step 1 again. Again, doesn't matter who you pick, it hits everyone. And then I use step 2. Again, hits everyone, doesn't matter who you pick. And with step 2, after the unit's turn, they get 2 stacks of shelter, which is why I wanted to use it there for the 2 stacks of shelter. But after that, the step 2 I'm mainly going to be using for cleansing debuffs. And then I use Klukai next because I want to get her ultimate on cooldown as soon as I can, so I can start working on reducing her cooldown on her ultimate. We'll go in ultimate with Klukai. And then ultimate again. End her turn. Then we'll move Diane here. That way we can activate her interception when she gets hit by the boss. Since the boss always hits the closest and the furthest target. We'll go ahead and use her skill 2 for more stacks of tuning. And for perfect pitch. And then we'll use her skill 1. End her turn. And we'll move Papa Shaw here. And I want to save her ultimate for later. So we're going to use her skill 1. We're going to use her basic attack. Alright, so we'll start with QJ, ultimate. And we go to Yuhi and use her skill 1 on the boss. Now the way the mechanics work on Yuhi is for every 3 or more stacks applied of steps, activates Best Dancer, which makes all the first 3 steps that was used, their effects become AoE at the same time. So what I like to do is on this turn, I like to use step 2 since it has a cleanse debuff effect. And I'm going to put it on Klukai since she's got 2 stacks of the debuff, Digestive Saliva. I know Papa Shaw has it too, but she can cleanse her own debuffs. Alright. Then we'll use Diane's skill 1. End her turn. And now that was just enough for Klukai to have her ultimate off cooldown, so now I'm going to use her ultimate. Then use her ultimate again. End her turn. And Papa Shaw will use her skill 2. I'll put the summon here, and this will cleanse her debuff of digestive saliva. Alright, so we are going to start with QJ's ultimate. And Yuhi is going to use her skill 1 on the boss. And now I could really use some heals, so what I'm going to use is her first step. I'm going to use a Diane because she's going to be taking the most damage since she's tanking hits as well. And activated Best Dancer, and as you can see, it cleansed all my debuffs at the time, which, you know, she gets a new, the putrid gets reapplied at the end of her turn, after her turn is done. And now we are going to use Papa Shaw's ultimate, because Klukai's ultimate is still on cooldown, and this is all you need to get it, finish getting Klukai's ultimate off cooldown. So use her ultimate. One, 2 support attacks, and then Klukai's ultimate is off cooldown. Now I'm going to use her ultimate, take out Divine while I'm at it. And use her ultimate again. End her turn. And then with Diane, I'm going to use her skill 2, mostly for perfect pitch, and then use her skill 1. End her turn. Alright, so we're going to start with QJ. I'm going to put her here. An ultimate. And I'm going to use Papa Shaw before Yuhi because Yuhi's stack of saliva dipped is at 1 stack, so I want to make sure I can keep it, so I'll need to refresh it. So I'll use her skill 2, which will cleanse the debuffs that she has, which will refresh the stacks. And I will move the summon here. And then I'll use Yuhi's ultimate. Then I'm going to use step 1 because I don't want to cleanse all the digestive saliva debuffs. Since I just refreshed it, I'm good for this turn. The next turn I do. But we're going to heal. So we're going to use step 1. And it doesn't matter who I put it on, so. Again, I don't want to cleanse these, so after I use her skill 1, I'm going to use the first step again. It don't matter who I put it on. Everyone gets it. Then I'm going to move Diane up. Use her skill 1. Because I don't have enough Convectus Index to do her skill 2 and the skill 1. So we'll just use... Not that I would want to, because I believe her tuning is maxed out already now. Yep. And he has no stability index. There's no need to use her skill 2. So we're just going to use her skill 1. End her turn. And unfortunately, this is the turn my Klukai cannot use her ultimate, so we're just going to use her skill 1. Alright. So we're going to use QJ first. I'm going to put her here and use her ultimate. And then I am going to use Yuhi. We're going to use her skill 2, where I can hit everyone, and as you can see, can also hit the boss for damage. And then we're going to use her skill 2 to cleanse. And we'll go ahead and cleanse Klukai. And this won't activate Best Dancer. And then I will use her first step on Diane, which will heal her, and then it will activate her Best Dancer. It will clear out the rest of the debuffs and heal everyone to full. You can see everyone's sitting at 9 stacks of the Saliva Dip buff. Now we're going to use... We'll go ahead and use Klukai, since her ultimate's not on cooldown. And we'll ultimate again. End her turn. We're going to use Papa Shaw's basic attack, and with the support attacks it'll be enough to put the boss into stability collapse. And then Diane's going to use her skill 1 on the boss. We'll end the turn. Now again, okay, first ultimate on QJ. Now again on Yuhi, her Saliva Dipped only has 1 stack, so if I use her and I don't cleanse any of those debuffs, she'll lose that buff. So I'm going to use Papa Shaw, her skill 2. I'll move the summon here, and that'll cleanse her all her debuffs, which will refresh everyone's stacks Saliva Dip buff. Okay, and now I can use Yuhi without her losing her stacks of Saliva Dipped. I'll use her skill 1. And I don't want to cleanse. No, I can't cleanse. I want heals. So we're going to heal. I'm going to heal Diane. Alright. And then we'll use Klukai's ultimate. Especially since the boss doesn't have any stability index. Ultimate again. End her turn. And then we're going to use Diane's skill 1. End her turn. Okay, we'll use QJ's ultimate. And then Yuhi will use her ultimate. And we'll use her step 2. Let's use it on Diane. Doesn't matter who actually hits everyone. And this will get rid of all the debuffs. And she can use her skill 1. And we'll use her step 1. Doesn't matter really on him, I'll just put it on Klukai. This should... Yep, everyone gets it. And then... Klukai is still on cooldown. We're going to use Diane's skill 2. Then her skill 1. Because that'll give, since she'll have perfect pitch, this should bring the boss's stability index down quite a bit. Down to 17. End her turn. And we're going to do Papa Shaw's ultimate. I'll bring it down quite a bit on the stability index. And Klukai is going to use her ultimate. And use her ultimate again. Alright, so everyone's got 14 stacks of the saliva dipped. Right here. We'll end the turn. And I got a little less than I thought I would. It's only 49.83. I normally get over 5,000, but anyways, that's how I use the physical team with Klukai on this boss. Thanks for watching.